Welcome, everybody. Al Berg and Lola here. It's the Doggy Style Podcast, episode 25. Wow, 25 episodes. Hmm. So, got a lot to talk about today. And first, I'm going to start out with this whole business of diversity and other things like that. I hear today at work that they're not going to promote um, males anymore to positions of directors and managing directors. They want to have a ratio of 56 females to 54%, 44% males in my company. Uh, now, to me, there's got to be some unintended consequences to this. I kind of understand the idea of fairness, but from my own point of view, people should be promoted based on their qualifications and not on their sex. I mean, if this isn't pure sexism, I don't know what is. Now, of course, there are places where women have trouble getting in, um, like construction, completely male-dominated, police, fire, two examples. But if you're a woman and you want to get into these fields, I'm sure you wouldn't have a problem. I could be wrong. I don't really know for sure. And if you're a woman today, there seems to be many more opportunity. I have two sons, and I feel bad if society starts to go this way. So one of the things that I'm trying to start is a networking group called OWM, or Old White Male or Males, I'm not sure, .net, oldwhitemale.net. And the idea is to fight for rights of for older males, white males, because nobody seems to be looking out for us. Now I know you're thinking, wah, wah, wah. On the other hand, I do pretty well. I'm happy with my job in some respects, but I believe that my ability to move up has been stymied by this new thing. Now, should we make sure that we have a certain number of people with green eyes? To be fair, I mean, there's a lot of brown-eyed people in leadership positions. What about short people? I mean, there's obviously a bias towards tall people. We know that. I mean, that's a fact. And what about the infirmed? What about the ugly? Do we have enough ugly people in higher management positions? I can go on and on and on. It just seems to me it's a slippery slope. And so there seems to be some managing director pretty high up on the chain has come down and said, not to me specifically, but that they're just going to promote women. So just basically on your sex. Now, I don't think that's illegal. I think it's only illegal if you don't, if you make a rule you're only going to promote men. I think women and old people are protected group. So now they could promote older women, I guess. So I'm not sure of the law, but just something about it seems very unfair to me. But of course, I mean, I do understand that women have been discriminated for a long time. And in some societies, they have to wear burqas or full covering. So, yeah, so I understand, but from my own point of view, I'm not happy with hearing these kind of things. All the more reason to network. So, I've actually been thinking, as a repercussion to this, any company that does um, this kind of pure sexist favoring, that to boycott them. So I'm going to wind up boycotting my own company. But what if all men didn't buy things from companies that did this, that refused to promote a male because he was a male? I mean, it's obscene if you did this for any other group. If it was for, we are not going to hire any blacks. We have too many blacks in basketball. We don't want any more blacks in basketball. Or there's too many Jewish accountants. No more Jewish accountants. Or, I mean, you can go on and on and on. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So, I guess I got that off my chest. So And just to now focus on some nicer things, it is a rainy day here today, and it is a walk. We're on a walk, Lola and I. Um, I got home early today, and I was considering going to the gym first, but I have a sore spot in my heart. Um, oh, and one other thing, and you might have heard me say this before. This is not my original idea, but there's a lot of men in prison. Maybe we need to make it equal, that only 50%, 44% of the prisoners can be male and the rest have to be female. I mean, it's absurd, this logic that because of your sex you either can't get a job or can get a job. I mean, if you didn't hire blacks or didn't hire Jews or didn't hire any group or didn't promote them, we can't promote, we have too many. So not happy with that, but it is what it is. Uh, I could look for a new job and get a new company and publicize it because, in theory, if these people weren't the best qualified, if you're hiring people who aren't qualified, promoting people unqualified, then obviously what will happen is that the performance of the company should go down. So I just let Lola off leash, and so that's one thing. Let's see. So what else today? Um, I was pretty productive today, I guess. Had a couple of meetings with my boss that I think went well. I think with my boss, when I talk to him, I think things go better. And I'm starting to figure out all his rules. And I do talk about unwritten rules. And you got to figure out your boss's unwritten rules and follow them. You're not in a fight with your boss. She's looking at me. What do you want? You want me to throw you a treat? She's looking at me like she wants a treat. You want a treat? I think you do. Okay, ready? Don't you have to go to the bathroom? She loves that game where I just toss a treat and she's got to go find it. You are very smart. So I'm going to talk more about my book today and my idea. So I was thinking today about my Excel franchising business. And the idea is to create training programs, sell the training programs as a franchising business, and allow people to, pay, a much higher price, and then they could get the training. So I have to do a lot of research for this, and if I can't, if I can't make money, how can I franchise it? So the idea was for me to try and train people, and I'm thinking of getting a job at a school or some way of teaching Excel first. So and so there's a lot of numbers. One thing is obviously, can I teach Excel without a computer? And without everybody having computers. And I was thinking it is possible, I think. And the way I would do it is that I would show in class building a spreadsheet. I would videotape the lesson and then allow the students, when they got home or maybe even over the internet, could work on creating the sheet and ask for help as a way. So I got to think about that idea more, that methodology. It might work. And again, one of the things that I spoke about yesterday is even the idea I'm seeking, I might come out with a better way of doing something. It might be creating training, it might be training people, it could be 1,000 things, and it might not actually be training in Excel. So I'm not sure if Lola's kind of walking around. I don't know if she has to poop. She hasn't pooped. Okay, so let me go through some of the principles that I've jotted down. Employees have to be engaged with the company mission. Um, I'm not sure what that means, but I'll just say you have a mission. So I guess what would be my mission as a training company or is Excel training? So my mission would be maybe to teach people Excel, to improve their lives by knowledge and a method. Um, so that's a mission. So the next one I have is one of my favorite, which is unintended consequences. So this whole, and I could use this appropriate time with talking about favoring one's sex with the unintended consequences of this. So there obviously, to me, are. I mean, everything, so you think you want to be fair and equal. I mean, I guess communism had a big unintended consequence, which was the murder of 100 million people by just trying to be fair, just equally distributing the wealth. So in terms of, so I'll just continue to go through these. I have two listed: volume weighted average price, or VWAP. So when I was at a company a while back, a finance company, our traders had to get what's called volume weighted average price, or VWAP. And so you would trade out all day, and whoever was the closest to this price, so it's an average price based on the volume. I don't want to get into the details of it. And I think there were ways that the trader could game this. In other words, they could look like they're doing really good, but in fact may be doing bad for the company. Um, and then the other one was communism. What could go wrong if you create a fair society where everyone shares the wealth rather than it going to a few people? What could go wrong? So there's just a few. I mean, there are other unintended consequences. None come to my mind, but think about how what your goal is, or your action, can have unintended consequences. You might, like, for example, at work, they rate people against other people in the group. So in my group, there's, say, 5 people, and the unintended consequence of doing this would be for me to not help people. And by the way, this is back to the other thing. I am not going to hold doors for women anymore. And women should serve in the army. Well, there was one other one. And I'm not going to help women. Let them figure it out. I'm going to be, if they're going to be prejudiced against me, I am going to be prejudiced against them. How's that sound? Boy, it feels good to get that off my chest. The next one has to do with kind of meditation. It says, be aware of your experience in the present moment. So now by doing this podcast, I'm totally not in the present moment. Totally. So it's the exact opposite. Come here. I'm talking to Lola. I have a cookie she seems to like. You like this? This is a milk bone. You like this one? Okay, stay here. Let me see you sit. Sit. Come on, sit. You going to sit, or is it wet? You don't want to sit in the water? Can you sit? Sit? No? Okay, forget it. Here, she didn't want to sit. Here, you ready? I'll throw it. How'd you get all dirty? Um, yeah, so there's this whole mindfulness meditation uh, culture where your focus should always be on the present. So here I am focusing on the future, well, and somewhat the past. And my present moment, I'm out with my dog. I'm talking into a microphone, and I'm out for a walk on a rainy day. My feet are wet, and that's it. And I don't have to be stressed by this stuff. If I focus, and one way to do this, and you can find a lot of stuff on the internet, I would recommend it. A friend of mine was doing it in the company, where he had these mindfulness sessions for 10 minutes, and I will say it really did work. It was something, after it was over, to kind of clear your mind. It felt really good. And you can get yourself all worked up. Like if you feel stress or tension, part of it is probably what you're thinking about, and you're probably not present. No, you can't go there. She's like a little playground. You can't go in the playground where the kids play. You can't go in the playground. Mhm. So the next one is an acronym, and I have no idea what it means. CPO WUWNH. I have no idea. Uh, that's reminds me of the Curse of Knowledge. And if you're not familiar with the Curse of Knowledge, is a book I heard this from. The first time I ever heard this was um, a book called Made to Stick. Come here, come here, come. And Made to Stick had a little section on the Curse of Knowledge. It's pretty interesting. They have a game called the Tapping Game, and I have a chapter on the Curse of Knowledge. And this is the Curse of Knowledge, because here, when I wrote that acronym, I fully understood what it was, and now that I'm looking at it, I have no idea. Yeah. The next item is create controls, and that's something we have to do at work, and that is any data you have, you want to have some way of controlling that the data is correct, if that's what it means. I don't really have much on that one. Um, the next one I have, where do you want to go? Is, come on, I think there's a kitty cat over here. Come on, let's go see if we can find a kitty cat. The next one I have is Six Principles for Change by Tony Robbins. Let's see what I don't even remember writing this one. No, I see 16. Um, oh yeah, I was right. Look, I was right. There was a kitty cat. There is a kitty cat over there. Yeah. You didn't want to meet the kitty cat. So yesterday there was a kitty cat she didn't want to meet. She likes going after kitty cats that are running. You like the running kitty cats, right? So it says 6 or 5 principles. 6. Come on, come on. Come on, no, don't go that way. It is hard to do this because I have a leash, an umbrella, and a phone. Okay, just detangled myself. Oh, don't know what happened there. Okay. Decide what you want and what's preventing it, not what you don't want. There's this whole thing of what you want, not what you don't want. Um, I don't know. So, for example, I don't want to get laid off, which means if I focused on not wanting to get laid off, will I get laid off? I don't know. Maybe you will. The whole theory is you should focus on what you want. I want to have a great job, which is probably better. Yeah, in that case, I see that's a good one. Um, the next one, define success. And for me, I've defined success as getting a want. So whatever I want, if I reach it, I'm successful. So the easiest way to be successful is simplify your wants. And one method I have of getting wants, I would say, and I don't do it enough, is what I call finish then add details. And I have a whole chapter in my book about it. It's very interesting how, and I have to do it more. I don't know. I guess one of the things I need to do is put an alarm that reminds me finish then add details. And all it means is that you want to have a finished product always. So if I'm writing a book, I want to have a finished book as soon as possible, and then I can always add to it. And right now my book is not. I mean, I did finish it, but it's in a non-finished state right now. And so I did want to get away from that. I did want to finish, and then when it was finished, add new things to it. So I could. I'm sorry, there was a mosquito. I'm sorry. I just went to knock a mosquito off the Lola. There was a bug on you. I was getting a bug. I scared. I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm sorry. Yeah, you get a treat. You get a treat. I didn't mean to scare you. Yeah, yeah. There was a bug gonna bite you, so I knocked it off. I went shoo bug. Not that she understands. Maybe she does. Who knows? Who knows what they understand? Okay. Phone is starting to get wet. Yeah. So define success. I don't know if this is what Tony Robbins meant, but for me, success is getting what you want. And avoid, it also means avoiding what you don't want. Ah, look at the doggy. There's a doggy. I don't know if you can hear it. Look at the doggy. Come on. Come on. Asshole. Um, okay, the next one. Change needs leverage. So, what is leverage? Leverage is like in finance, leverage means you bet $10, and if you win, you get 100. But if you lose 100. So with your $10, that means you're levered 10 to 1. In physics, a lever allows you to lift more. I mean, a pulley allows you to lift more weight. A wheel cart gives you leverage. So, and again, I would say listen to Tony Robbins, not to me. So get something by Tony Robbins. He's really good about change. So in terms of change, it needs leverage according to him. And then the next one is creating cognitive dissonance creates leverage. So cognitive dissonance is this state where you're contradicting yourself, that things just don't make sense, and that's not a really good definition. I'll post a better definition of what cognitive dissonance is. I can't think of an example offhand right now, but according to Tony, cognitive dissonance creates leverage. So I'll say that something that just doesn't feel right can make me feel levered. The next one is change is 80% why and 20% how. So the key part of that is you got to figure out why you want to change. And once you have the why down, and again, I don't know if this is what he says, I'm just assuming that he says that, then the how becomes much easier. So he's just saying once you have the why, the how is much easier. Then the next is insanity is making the same change and expecting a different result. And it's always Einstein. So it's Einstein's definition. And I like the quote. If you want to make anything sound more intelligent, say that Albert Einstein said it, and that's from Albert Einstein. So the next is you have to interrupt the pattern that's holding you back. So you got to figure out what that pattern is, somehow interrupt it, and the next one is funny can stop anger. So if somebody's angry, if you make a joke, according to Tony, you can break them out of the anger. So breaking patterns, if depressed, grin, breathe, be outrageous, come up with 10 ideas on how to break the pattern. I'm not sure if these are his. Create an empowering alternative. So if I want to change, what is the alternative? And how is it empowering me? Brainstorm 10 alternatives. Find a role model. And then condition the new pattern until it remains consistent. I'm sure his if you could find his stuff, I think it's on Change, one of his books. If I find it, I'll post it. Okay, the next one I have is random is beautiful, and I highlighted that because I find there's something about randomness. And the first time randomness, I'll read this and then it's probably, let me talk about it first. So the first time, and I'll probably say the same thing that I've written down. First time I found randomness, I'm going to say maybe in a game. You roll the dice and you win or lose based on that. So it was probably like Monopoly or some game. But then the first time I think I've used it was when I created a 1980s program I called Smart Album Selection. I don't know if that's what it was called. It was a program on an Atari Basic that all it did was that I entered all the albums I had, and at the time there were no iPods. I just had records. There were no CDs even. Stay here, stay here. Leave it alone. Okay, there's a rabbit right in front of us. Leave it alone. Leave it. Come on. I'll give you a treat. Come here. You get a treat. She kind of ignored it. What a good girl. You ignored the rabbit. What a good girl. You get a nice treat. Good girl. So I reward Lola if she listens to me. She just let a rabbit. There was a rabbit kind of running, so she let it go, and I gave her a nice reward. Yeah. So and what I did was I entered all my albums in it, and I just basically selected a random number between 1 and the number of albums I had, and that was a key to the album. And then I selected a side. So if I had, say, 300 albums, it would pick a number of, say, 57. 57 would be associated with some album. It would then random select a side, and I would play that side. And I noticed that my record collection became useful again. In that before I had done that, I would buy an album and listen to it, and then wouldn't listen to it anymore. So it's just an interesting way of listening to music. And of course now it's all the rage, the iPod Shuffle, and I think because of that, I think random. And then another way I found random was nice is that if you're stuck on what to do, you might as well just randomly select an item to do. Because either one, if you can't decide, this is an interesting thing I learned about decisions, is that if you can't decide on something, it's because the choices are too close. So you might as well just randomly select one. And so if the choices aren't that close, it's obvious of which one. So when you prioritize, you might group things into top and bottom, if you can, and then just randomly select something to do. So those are kind of just a few things that I think I really like random. And let's see what it says. I noticed a long time ago the importance of randomness. I realized before the iPod that my music would be more interesting if I randomly selected what to listen to. I wrote some software that ran on an Atari computer, which helped me pick an album and a side to play. This was where there were no CDs, YouTube, or Apple Store. And Lola wants to cross the street, so I have to look both ways. All of a sudden, my music collection became more interesting. I would buy an album and listen to it for a week, then stick it on the shelf, never to be listened to again. Adding randomness to this decision was better than my own selection. Today, I use random selection on a daily basis to help select what to work on. Do you spend time trying to figure out what to work on? What if there are a lot of tasks? What about equal importance? How do you select what to do? I use randomness, and it doesn't matter what I do as long as I don't get into analysis paralysis. I waste very little time trying to figure out what to work on these days. Sometimes I can think that God selected my task, also, which is weird because I'm an atheist. So just as a sidelight, I use as a joke is that kind of when you randomly select a task, you can say God selected it in a way. So when something random is selected, I can still select how much time to spend on it. Another way random is beautiful is to help with creativity. That's right, yeah. So I do have this is a pretty cool way to do this, and I'm sure this will explain it. I have a spreadsheet that uses this concept also. I make lists of words or titles and randomly combine them together. This creates some ideas that are unique and interesting. I even used randomness to pick which key principle to work on. That's true, I did. What I'm reading right now was randomly selected. Of course, if you have important deadlines to make, I did a comma, make sure you work on those tasks first. So look for ways to use randomness in your life and you'll be glad you did. Okay, I think Lola had enough. It was a shorter walk than usual. I think because the rain. So that's interesting. So there was that other one that even my book, and even in my book on the internet, I have if you go to kp4s.com, that's 4 letters, kp4s.com, there is a random, so you can actually pick random titles to random articles to look at. So I think I've said enough for today. This is Al Berg with Lola signing off, and today is May 16th, 2018. I hope you all have a very great day, week, month, and year. And if you're bored, do something exciting. Get out there and do it. Take care.